listening to the Startup Scale Up Show, a podcast that inspires entrepreneurs to create meaningful businesses and pursue their passions. My name is Demi Samande and I am a furniture manufacturer, best known for documenting my move to Lagos, Nigeria for hopes of business opportunities. And I'm sitting down with entrepreneurs from across the continent to talk about their process, the lessons they have learned, and how to make real impact. Welcome to Susu. Hi guys, welcome to Susu Podcast with me, Demi Samande. Thank you for tuning in yet again for another episode. I cannot wait to just share with you guys today who I have on the show. Joining me today is Ized Uanikhehi, the co-founder of TORA Africa, an impact-driven human resource technology startup that recruits, trains, verifies and deploys workers in the informal sector. She is also convener of the largest community of digital marketing professionals in Africa, DigiClan, and she is driven by her life's goal to bridge the digital divide in Africa with this community in collaboration. A graduate of Biochemistry with 15 years post-college experience in marketing, who has spent the last 6 years changing the digital marketing landscape of Africa through her work and adopting digital technology for advocacy and helping startups promote their businesses. She has worked for and with multi-billion naira international and local brands, successfully developing and working on a number of creative digital content and offline marketing strategies to propel their brands forward. She was Director of Marketing and Growth at Max Okada, a two-wheel ride hailing mobility company. Before joining Max, she was a social producer at CNN Africa. Ized, it's a pleasure to have you.
I'm great. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be here. It's great to be here. I was going to say it's great to be here, and then I'm happy to be here, and sort of just merged it.
Well, you can have both. I'll give you both.
So I'm great, happy to be here.
Welcome to Susu Podcast. We've been talking in length this morning, and we've been having quite interesting conversations.
Yes,
should I say conversations? Because we've touched on quite a few non-related to entrepreneurship conversations today, haven't we?
Yes, we have.
And it's been an absolute pleasure. Welcome to Susu once again. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Now, reading your personal profile and your business profile, I really want us to really delve in today in Ized's story, her journey. And from your profile, we know that you've done a series of things in the years that you've been exploring this you've been embarking, shall I say, on this entrepreneurial journey.
Yes,
so before we delve right into it, give me a backstory. You know, how was your childhood? Where did you grow up? What did you do? What type of child were you? Because I noticed today you smile an awful lot. So I can only imagine what you were like as a child.
No, I don't think that I smiled as much as a child. I was a very competitive child. So I'm the second child, and I have an elder brother who's really smart. He's not as smart as me right now. But he was much smarter than me as a child. And he started reading when he was like 3, almost 4. And visitors will come to the house and my dad would be like, LJ, come and read for this uncle or come and read for this auntie. And I was the child who didn't work on time and who didn't know how to read on time. And so it became my life's goal to beat my brother at something.
I was actually going to ask that. Was that the agenda then?
Yeah, so I became like a really competitive child. If my brother read one book, I would read 2. If he played football, I would play it better. If he knew how to play a game, I had to be the best at that game. If he could, it was just be able to show off to my folks that, I was just as smart even if I didn't start early.
What was the age gap between you two?
1 year. So close.
Okay, so close. No wonder. Okay.
So, that's how we went through school and ended up studying the same course, actually. Biochemistry.
What was that? Oh, really? At university?
Yeah, we studied the same course in the same university. And
you know what I'm going to ask you, don't you?
Definitely. Everybody asks that question. But it's fine. I beat him in school too.
Well done. Chop knuckle to you. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Was it by a long stretch?
I think I'm not saying that he's not as smart as he was when he was a kid, but when you're competing with Ized, it's harder. So I think that formed like the core of for me, what I find really interesting is competition. So if I was working somewhere and it was just, even when things were going like really great, and then there was no competition brands to say, okay, we're doing better in the market, it would be like, blah. I wanted
not
more.
so interested anymore.
So I guess all of that competing and trying to be seen was sort of like the basis for how I'm learning to collaborate a lot now, though. I'm learning that the new competition is collaboration. And so I'm unlearning some of those childhood lessons that I picked up just trying to be better.
So at that point, did you realize that you were basically entrepreneurial? Did you even know what the word meant?
No, I didn't. It was more like, I said you're a marketer. So it's sort of stuck. You're a marketer. You're always marketing something. And then I discovered a friend who could design very well. He could really design really good. And so, sort of became best friends, and I would market his designs to other people.
Okay, so that's probably your first stint at collaboration then.
Yes.
At the age of 17?
Yes. So for me, it was more like, as soon as I discovered that I didn't have to do all the work making the product, but I could just sell it, which came easy to me. It then became the route. I would look for somebody who could do something really good. I'm like, okay, I can be the middleman to the client, because most people who produce or manufacture or design or who are creative, what they don't know how to do well is sell. So they have all these really good ideas and all these really good products, but it's not getting to the yes. So it then became a challenge for me to say, how can I sell this product to the target audience or to the right consumer or to people who wanted this product? And then I wasn't selling clothes anymore.
So how long were you the marketer for in terms of that?
Throughout school. I was the marketer throughout school.
But was it the same line of business, or did you explore other things?
Everything. I can't count. As long as you had a good product and I could sit with you and talk about how you could rebrand it and repackage it and then sell, whether you could bake cakes. So I had a friend who you would go to her house and she had the most amazing moi moi bean cakes, and she used to make it every Saturday. So I had this plan with her, like, let's sell it to other people who want it. So we wake up really early, she makes the bean cakes, and then we package it and then we sell. So it was, as long as you could make a product that I thought people would be interested in, I would help you repackage it and sell it.
So in terms of the multiple collaborations you were doing, you basically graduated from being the marketer for your own products to now advising others on how to market theirs?
How to rebrand and then market theirs, and then going a step further to market it and then taking a commission off the top.
All at 17?
No, I had true school. That was true school. It wasn't just the first year. It was subsequent years. And then there was a time, these CDs, they used to sell them for like 100 or 150 different songs, pirated CDs. So I would go to the next town and buy like a bunch of pirated CDs and then come back to school and sell them for a 50 naira markup. Some things were fast and easy to move, and then others you had to,
work a little bit harder.
But I found out pretty early that it was easier to market someone else's hard work. So for me,
that's interesting.
Yeah, for me, marketing was easy, but just creating that product or creating that, it was easier to just sell other people's products, because doing it myself was double the process. I would create, then I would sell. Somebody else has created. It was easier to just go ahead and then help the person rebrand and sell. So with every product, you had to learn who the target audience was and what was the pain point for that target audience and how they would best perceive, what was the best way to sell that product to them. And so it became something that I didn't have to learn from the pages of a notebook or in class. It became something that I had to experience to learn. So you're just the marketer.
So please just share with me a little bit about what you feel are the skill sets or the characteristics of somebody who can go into social media marketing as part of the tech sector.
I think that my experience has led me to a marketing point, and then tech and digital marketing then expanded the platforms with which I could market. So my experience was more around marketing and then just building a life of sales and business development and getting more people, product and brands more visibility. But with digital marketing and social media marketing, it's now gone beyond just the my immediate reach to now a more global audience or my more wider reach. So I think my experience prepared me for a life of marketing, and then social media marketing just expanded my platform, basically. Tech and social media marketing just expanded my platform.
I see that.
Social media
yes.
marketing is tech though, but it just expanded the platform with which I was marketing on, as opposed to face to face, one on one.
Yes.
Now I'm talking to a much wider audience and a much more global audience, and starting communities that are beyond my immediate
Circle,
environment. Yeah.
yes.
So that's how my experience prepared me for a life of social media marketing and tech.
So you don't regret a single thing
No.
or the route in which you found that.
I
that
love
out?
marketing. I love marketing so much. I love social media marketing. I love the fact that you can change a skeptic's mind from somebody who's, I would never use that product, and then 3 weeks down the line you see them recommending the product online to somebody else. I'm like, I did that. And it's a thrill for me. I have no regrets about this line. I can sell for days. I know a lot of people say I don't like selling. I can sell because I believe that human beings are constantly selling themselves. Everybody sells.
Whether intentionally or unintentionally.
Exactly. Whether it's a product or you're selling yourself, everybody sells. So for me, it's natural. It's a natural thing to do. So I have no regrets about going into marketing or digital media marketing. I have no regret. Maybe a slight tinge of regrets about not using my biochemistry certificates. I wonder where that is now.
No, be honest, Ized. Come on. Do you regret that?
Slightly.
Really?
I don't know that I regret it, but I have to say it on camera so that my mom and my dad will not feel like they wasted school fees. I really regret it, mommy. I wish I'd...
Yes, she really does. I promise.
I don't think I look convincing.
Of course you don't.
I noticed in life that everything is, how do they say? They say life is lived forwards and understood backwards. So everything that I've done has somewhat impacted on what I ended up doing. Because I studied biochemistry. It was my dream to become a doctor. Study biochemistry, come out top of class, then go back and study medicine, because I wanted to get into medical school and I didn't quite pass physics. I can't even remember what subject it was. And so I got biochemistry. And so for me, it was as soon as I graduate, I just need to spend 1 year maybe doing NYC, then go back to school to study medicine. So that was my focus. And post school, it became, do I really have 5 extra years to spend? Shouldn't I just sell? Okay, no, let me work for 1 year and then.
So what did you go into once you discovered that you now wanted to work and do something?
At the time, initially I was still chasing on the admission, and at that period I was selling for I think I was helping my auntie at her store in Abuja. I moved to Abuja straight out of NYC, just went straight to Abuja. Oh, the NYC part is like really key, because when I was doing my youth service, I did it in Anambra State. I had gone into the town that I'd started teaching at the school, and so the principal of the school would say every teacher should stay behind to teach at lessons, and then they will pay you, I think, an extra 3,000 naira a month. But when I was teaching, I taught mathematics and biology.
Oh, so that's okay. So once you graduated, you now went on to teaching.
I went to
after NYC.
Service. No, during youth service, I taught during youth service. So I was posted to a school to teach. So I taught mathematics and biology in the school. And I would say something and ask my students in class about something that, about the computer, and they didn't have any idea. And it became clear to me that there was a bunch of people in Anambra State at the time I was serving that didn't know how to do basic computer.
What year was this?
2004. So what I did was I traveled all the way to Lagos and I bought myself 4 Pentium 1 computers. It was Pentium 1 at the time, Pentium 1 and Pentium 2. It was, those desktop. And then I looked for a space, rented the space, and then I set up these computers, and I just put computer school here. And I told the principal at the time that I would not be teaching lessons anymore because it was just 3,000 naira a month. But I could charge each student that was coming to learn from my computer school 5,000 naira a month, and I had the full. So I would. It was 3 times a week, so I had full. All my classes were full, just teaching for 5,000 naira a month. So I would have been paid 3,000 naira a month for lessons.
Well, for a lesson, a class full of people.
So I had maybe 21, 22 students, and they were paying me 5,000 naira a month, and so
Per head.
Wow. And so I was doing really well with, and then I started selling recharge cards because that was the in thing at the time. I was selling recharge cards. I was making phone calls.
Then you were juggling all of this at the same time.
Yes, because being a teacher, school closes at 1, 2. You go home, you rest. You open your computer school, and then people would come. You would teach them. They'll go. I wasn't doing anything else, so I was the rich copper, the copper who had money, and I mean, it was cool. I would have otherwise been traveling home every other weekend, but this time I was staying and doing youth service for my fatherland.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah. So, having done that, how did we now transition into the tech space? How did sort of teaching basic computer skills, this was in Anambra, right?
Yeah.
In Anambra State, then translate into, okay, I now want to go full force into this tech world.
So this thing that I do is, so if you said to me right now, you want to learn JavaScript, I totally, absolutely have no idea about JavaScript. But you said, I want to learn JavaScript and I'm willing to pay 200,000 naira or 2 million naira to learn JavaScript. I would then make it my duty to learn that thing so that I can teach you and make that money. And so for me, it wasn't a planned transition into the tech world. It was people then wanted to learn more tech skills, and I had to position myself in a way where I would be able to offer those tech skills and make more money. It was slow and steady. So I got back to Abuja. I started selling. I was still the middleman. I did a lot of, I sold a lot of things, from lands to, I'm not sure I'm supposed to say this on.
Go for it.
People would get contracts and I would help them sell to people who would do the contracts, and then I take a commission off the top. So
well, I think that's pretty standard here, isn't it, in this environment?
I mean, I can't even remember most of the people that had the contracts or most of the people that bought, but I know that, I would go to the front of the ministries and then scout for contract letters. Then I would go to the right people who could do those contracts and say,
and have them to execute.
Yeah. So it was sort of like, so it was everything. I sold lands, I sold cars, I sold, just basically making money off the top. And then I would write business plans too and feasibility studies, because that's how I learned my ABCs.
Ized, you are absolutely just, I don't know, I don't know how else to put it other than your entrepreneurial journey literally has been via the route of a jack of all trades. So, and then we now land.
Really. If you look at it closely, it's still centered on marketing or sales or just basically building business development.
But you basically went about it willing to learn whatever you had to learn.
I'm always willing to
in
learn.
Order to
always
to progress and to be able to make some sort of income.
I could be walking past some place and I see this young person who's saying things that I should know, but I don't know. I mean, whatever I'm going for can wait a little bit longer, and then it's gotten to the point these days where I'm so busy, and then I see classes online that I want to attend, but I can't attend at that time. So I pay people I pay for people to attend the classes, and I'm like, okay, you will teach me every evening at 7 to 9 because
that's interesting.
Yeah, so for me, you have to keep learning and keep expanding knowledge, otherwise you will become redundant. And with tech is constantly growing. You snooze, you lose. Every day there's some new thing or invention that has come in the tech industry, and you can't be that far behind. You can't say what I learned 2 years ago is enough to carry me to this time. You just lose. So you have to keep learning. So I tell myself every day I have to learn one thing new, or otherwise I can't sleep. Even if I'm just reading an article, I have to learn something new. And so that has kept me, because in the digital marketing world, there's always some sort of invention or some sort of app or development that you have to keep up with, and I try.
And what would you say is the sort of essential skills that somebody needs to be able to have the mindset, or at least the strength to be able to sort of survive in the tech space?
Just be willing to learn and be willing to collaborate. A lot of people are working in silos, doing things on their own. I want to be the best at this. I want to do this so that I want to be known for. I feel like if there's a lot more collaboration, you reduce a lot of the pressure on yourself, and then you're able to focus on what you can be really good at, as opposed to trying to be good at everything. I think that was the mistake. Those were the mistakes I made earlier on, just trying to be good at everything, as opposed to making those collaborations. I think I soon discovered when I got into my entrepreneurial life that even if I did get the job, I didn't necessarily have to execute it myself. I could subcontract it to somebody that would execute it, as long as I monitored that the person was executing as like I promised the client. And then, I wasn't under that much pressure anymore, but I was still delivering to the client. So
it's funny because I think collaboration really is the word of the day, isn't it, at the moment? And I think it's definitely, well, not necessarily the word of the day, it's been the word for a while, and it continues to be the word because it is very, very effective in essence, very, very effective. And I think within the sort of African and Nigerian context, in terms of all our sort of our aims and our agendas and sort of trying to do collaborations, how would you advise somebody who's listening in today how to go about finding those opportunities for collaboration? Because I can imagine the reason why so many people are working in silos is because
there's a lot of fear about
there's a huge amount of fear. It's funny because I had a meeting just before our podcast, and it was circling around this whole collaboration opportunity as well. And one of the questions that we have to keep asking is, can you handle it? Can you handle it? Because you need to be able to stand for the person that you are outsourcing to.
Yes, you do.
So, how do you go about sort of verifying that the person that you've decided to collaborate with, because obviously collaboration opportunities grow when you have growth in your network. As you're growing, you're developing that network, and the people you're trying to sort of go about collaborating with, I guess the first time, the second time will probably tell, but how do you first go about initiating those first opportunities?
So I learned something recently that I guess that I had known but was worried about is it's okay to fail the first time you collaborate with somebody, but that you have to try, at least try. So I see a lot of people who would swear on their mother's lives, I can do this. In fact, the last time I did it, they almost gave me an award for it. But they've not created the award yet, so that's why I didn't win the award. So I am really good at this. And then you say, okay, let's do this. And then right off the bat, not even in the middle, not at the end, from the beginning of the project, they're already failing at it.
It crumbles, yeah.
And you're like, what? But you have to try until you find your person. You have to try. And collaboration is not necessarily just, somebody you do business with. It's somebody that's, it's like in finding a business partner. That's actually a key area where collaboration is really, really important. Just being able to work with the right person. So I know that I'm very good at marketing. I know that I'm very good at business development, but I'm also not really good at managing people or administration. And so for me, in starting a business, it was key to find a partner who was good at those things while I focused on marketing. And so that's a collaboration thing. And sometimes it's by referrals, sometimes it's by recommendations, sometimes it's people you see who just do things really good their own way, but maybe not have success because they're not really good at the things that you are good at. And so it's a lot of trial and error in the beginning, but I'll tell you how I got into digital marketing. So I used to write business plans and feasibility studies too in Abuja, because that's what my dad did for a living, and so he would give it to me to type. Then we would use typewriters to type his feasibility studies and business plans. And so I learned how to write just by reading a lot of feasibility studies and business plans. I can literally write a business plan in my sleep because as a kid, I would type and type all of those documents for my dad. And so in Abuja, when I was looking for something extra to do, microfinance banks were the rave at the time, and people would go to get loans from them, and they'll say, go and bring a business plan. So I would hang around the microfinance banks, or I would give my cards to some of the people that worked there. And so when they ask you for a business plan, they'll say, you can also call this person, because then I would give them a commission of the top. So I used to write a lot of business plans. And then there was this lady who was very digital savvy, and I had just gotten on Twitter at the time. And so she said she was going to do business tweets for 5 people. So send her your business post, and she would do for 5 people. And so I sent her my post. It was a simple 160 character worded post. I write business plans. Call me. I can write your business plans and feasibility studies. And then she took that post and then she put it on social media with my phone number. And the next day, my phone would not stop ringing. People would call and call and call. And I was like, wait, how? Oh my God, that was so easy, you know, because as an offline marketer at the time, you needed to talk to like 10 people, and then out of the 10, 8 would be interested, and then you needed to do
And all this happened on Twitter?
And all of this happened on Twitter in 24 hours. And in 24 hours, I had, 7 new clients, or 9 at the time, to write business plans for. But as soon as I was done with it, I didn't want to write business plans anymore. I wanted to know how this marketing worked. That was so easy, as opposed to the offline marketing. You know how offline marketing works. You go to the clients, you pitch, they say, come back tomorrow, and you come back tomorrow.
Yes, and then 100 other people also pitching.
Exactly. And then from 10 people, you maybe sign up 2 clients, and you're like, okay, I did a really good job. But here I was, in one single tweet, somebody tweeted on her social media timeline.
What year was this?
This was in 2012, 2013.
Okay.
Yes, in 2013, actually. And then she put it on her social media timeline, and boom, spread like wildfire. So I then went to her and said I wanted to learn how to do digital marketing and then there was this club-ish thing that she had going on at the time. It's Adopt a Tweep. I don't know the reason for the name, but we would hang out, and then we'll talk about ways to, market on social media. And then soon I was part of the ESCOs of the Adopt a Tweep family, because I would push so hard. I wanted to learn as much as I could learn. They would come to Lagos for social media marketing meetups, and I would, tag along. But for me, I had been beaten by the social media bug, and I really wanted to get into the industry. So I would research online and read as much as I could until that thing happened. I know we talked about it before. Is that?
Yes. Now, with digital marketing, in terms of TORA,
yes.
How did we go about developing the idea for TORA? Where did that idea come from? Because I imagine that a business like TORA is more tech driven as it is digital marketing driven. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It makes a lot of sense. So for TORA, I was working at a 2-wheel ride-hailing company, Max Okada, and we had part of my doing my research about competition brands. I discovered that a couple of ride-hailing companies were coming into Nigeria, Lagos to be precise. We had Gokada had just raised $5.3 million.
That's an awful lot of money.
Yes, Max was about to close on a raise of $7 million. We had Oride coming into the country with $40 million. They were going to take over the market. And then there was, or maybe more, I think it was more than 40
These people
million.
were signing contracts back to back, weren't
Exactly.
they? With Lagos State.
Not necessarily with Lagos State, with investors from the US and from China and from whatever country the investors were coming in from, but they were bringing in the money to grow the 2-wheel ride-hailing company here in Nigeria. And then we had Safe Border coming into the country. And then one key thing kept jumping at me. With all this money coming in and all these bikes that these people are going to be buying, who is going to ride these bikes? And then,
That's a good question.
Yes, nobody had at the time thought of the human resource. And I knew just by working in the industry that was one of the hardest things to do, sign up these people. So I actually came up with some ideas, and I was going to sell it to my boss, and then he was like, focus in marketing is your focus, and we're growing. It was it was,
So you had so we had a huge influx of bicycles coming into, not even bikes, motorbikes
yeah.
coming into Nigeria, and as of the time you're working for one of those companies that was responsible for bringing in that influx.
Yeah.
And then you noticed very early that, wait a minute, this is quite a huge volume of these motorbikes coming in with no human resource to tend to them.
Exactly. Because even at the time, we had a huge need for these motorcycle riders. And we were constantly...
Did we have a huge need for it?
The company I was working with.
Okay.
And we're constantly recruiting and still not able to meet up
with the demand.
Yes. So I was tasked with recruiting top of the funnel, marketing for these people, and then there was a team who were going to convert the top of the funnel numbers to actual riders. And so I needed to come up with ideas for how to grow that, top of the funnel numbers for motorcycle riders. And so I would sit down and I would plan and I would think, and I realized that, you can't train these people that were already in the markets.
So taking your regular Okada rider off the street, who in essence is working for himself, isn't he?
Exactly.
And now try to sort of place him under
and
this
say,
company.
Use an app. First of all, I'm already making money for myself. Now you're saying I should use your app. I should play by your rules, and then you will take out of my money. So they weren't easily convinced. Like, okay, so
were the bikes going to be given for free?
No, the bikes are going to be given at an instrumental payment basis. So you take the bike, and every month you...
So they're basically, in essence, renting the bikes?
They're renting to own the bikes.
Okay.
At some point, they own the bikes. But
so pretty much the same system that was already in place?
Yes.
Okay, that's not a bad deal.
But they were making about, the same, or maybe not as much, but, roughly the same, just renting the smaller bikes. And then there was no Okada ban in place.
Ah, yes. So the bikes that were going to be given to them was going to be a higher spec, because there's a minimum spec that is required for Lagos State, right?
Exactly. It was 200 cc's.
And on average, what are the ones that they were?
They were riding the 120 cc's,
which are considerably cheaper.
Which is considerably cheaper. But they could ride in between the towns, which is really where people take Okadas. You've come down from a bus, you don't want to walk all the way home, so you take an Okada.
Within the estates,
exactly.
the short trips.
Yes.
Yes.
So people who were using ride-hailing to stop an Okada were people who were typically going long distances. If you were going to use an app to stop an Okada, was because maybe you were at Lekki or on the island and you needed to be at the airport in another 35 minutes and you didn't want to be in traffic. So people who were going long distances or had urgent meetings were the ones who were using the ride-hailing apps, because, the regular Okadas were on the streets, and then they would typically just stop them if they were not going long distances. But again, the ride-hailing companies were much safer with all the helmets and all the... So it was more like a culture shift. I want to go to the end of my street, I would jump on an Okada. But now you're telling me it's not safe. I needed to wear a helmet. I needed to wear, certain gears. It wasn't an easy to sell culture shift.
It's not an easy transition, really,
it was
isn't
happening. Yes, it was happening.
But was it happening with the same demographic of people? Because one thing I noticed, that obviously your regular Okada rider is, I don't know, were they graduates? Were there people who are learned enough to be able to apply and use apps that even have phones of that grade?
So when you convert the regular Okada to the ride-hailing, you typically have to give him a smartphone and show him how to use it. Most of them will toggle it off the
do it off,
yes. And then they will stay on the road and be hailing passengers. But dude, you have the app. People are literally trying to get you via the app. Like, you would see rides, and then you will look on the map and you see the Okada men there, but they were not picking up. And people are requesting rides. Why are you not picking up these passengers? And then you would find out that he had turned off his app, and so people couldn't necessarily stop him, because what he was used to was negotiating with the customer. I'm going to VI, how much? Pay 400 or pay 500. And so it was not just culture shift or mind shift for the consumers, it was mind shift too for the Okada riders. And it was difficult because you will sit them and say, do not pass one way, do not pass one way. Do you understand? Yes, I understand. Would you pass it one way? No, I would not pass it one way. And then take the bike, go, and then 10 minutes later they're calling you, he passed it one way. Like, what part of do not pass one way did we miss? So a lot of them were used to riding bad. And so for me, it was, why are we not training unemployed people, which was a huge pool
number, yes,
to ride bikes? Because
people who were able to use smartphones.
Exactly. And people who were educated enough to use smartphones, and people who you could train easily to give better customer service, to ride bikes. And they would be making much more than they're making unemployed.
So what would be the markup in terms of what your average, what would have been the markup? We are very much talking in past tense now, because as of date, as of earlier in the year, a lot of these companies were now out of commission. They're no longer able to run. And we'll delve into that a little bit perhaps. But what would have been the markup for somebody who's coming, who is your average Okada rider on the roadside, to somebody who is now perhaps, I don't know, an educated person who is now being trained to ride these bikes? What sort of income would they sort of been earning?
What most people didn't know at the time was the average Okada rider in a ride-hailing as a matter of fact, even not in the informal Okada sector, was making as much as 150 grand a month.
Your regular Okada driver?
Your regular Okada driver. Think about it.
Unregistered?
They make 8,000 naira, an average 8,000 naira a day.
Oh, wow.
8,000 naira a day times 30 days, if they, most of them work Mondays through, but let's remove a couple of days, say like 22 days or let's work with 20 days.
Yeah.
That's 160,000 naira in a month with 20 days. Fuel, the entire Okada tank is filled with 500 naira fuel. How much fuel can you buy? It's not like it's a car. So you don't buy so much fuel, fixing up the bikes and all of that. And you take home what, 120, 150 a month, which was what more than these educated, unemployed people.
Well, that makes a lot of sense as to why we saw such an influx. I wasn't raised in Nigeria, but I know that many conversations were happening that there was a huge influx of a lot of people now deciding to just be an Okada rider. Because it was cash in hand every day.
Yes, but it wasn't an easy decision. It wasn't like they often made the decision. You had to go and sell it to them. There were a lot of people who would train and could ride very well, and then you will give them these bikes, and then like a week later they will come back and return the bikes to you, and then you ask, what's the problem? You don't want to ride anymore? You don't like the money that you're making? And what was shocking was that the biggest excuse was, I don't want people to laugh at me.
Oh, wow.
I didn't go to school to ride Okada. So from what most people, it was more like, we had a town hall where we called a lot of people and we asked them, how do we change the minds of people? A job is an informal job. So there's a lot of, ways that people, especially Nigerians, look at the informal job sector. You say, I'm a carpenter. It's funny,
I actually call myself a carpenter because somebody called me a carpenter once.
Yeah. So there's that image that just quickly forms in your mind when somebody says, I'm a carpenter. You don't think through maybe this person is not on the, low cadre, artisan on the street type carpenter. Maybe this person. So there's that shift of, I'm too educated to be riding a bike. My friends are laughing at me. I wish it was like really solid, strong reasons that we were getting drop-offs, but 80% of the reasons were around, my father said I shouldn't ride the bike anymore. I didn't go to school. I sold bread on my head on the streets of Abuja.
Really?
As a biochemistry graduate. And it was the craziest thing because I was making money for each of these loaves of bread, right? And then I would go to estates and I would supply the whole estate's bread in the morning. I was doing maybe 150 loaves of bread in the morning. And I was making a profit on each of these loaves of bread. And my profit in a week, my money in a week was much more than the 70,000 naira job I eventually went to take because people were laughing at me because I was selling bread. So it was more like I wanted to go to an office job because my friends would look at me and say, "You sell bread."
See, the thing is, this is not just isolated to Nigeria as well. You know, I remember when I first started out in furniture, the first thing that I was doing was restoration. Even before I even got to restoration, because I self-taught in restoration and I went for training. Before that, the very first sets of transactions that I had in furniture was buying and selling old used furniture.
Oh, nice.
And this was in England. This was 2010, when the recession was at its peak in the UK, and I couldn't find work. So I started buying and selling used furniture. And I remember many people, you know, friends, of course, even neighbors, would see me carrying these chairs up to the flat, and they'd just be giving you that. Oh. And then I remember one particular friend who was actually brave enough to say it to my face. She was like, "Why are you doing this?" I was an architect. Well, I am an architect.
Yeah.
Graduate. I could go out and get work, or so people thought. It was that easy. And I did find work, but it wasn't within architecture. So when I decided to now go and try this, what I thought was actually a very viable business, straight cash in hand.
Exactly.
You're flipping these items. The moment I realized what flipping was, I was like, I really want to try this out. And I was shamed for it. I was shamed for it from people who knew me very well, not even strangers. So I can imagine the pressure and the shame. And I think if I was the sort of person who was very susceptible to shame, that would have been my point of giving up. That, what am I doing? This is embarrassing.
Yeah.
Not only am I doing something completely unrelated to my education, I'm selling things that are in many people's views, basically inferior. This is rubbish. This is what you would class as things people dump on the street.
But they will buy it once it's restored.
They would also buy agege bread when they're hungry, you know. And I think that I can understand the logic. And again, it's not just Nigeria; it's all around the world. And I think that a lot of the time, it is the biggest thing that deters people from doing the things that could actually be very excellent at.
Exactly. So the tech bit of TORA was, we then decided to go and start, we, meaning me and my co-founder, who was also working in the Okada company at the time, then decided to go and start our own human resources training company where we would train people to ride Okada. And we brought in the tech angle because we wanted clients to be able to monitor every step of the way. And then we wanted to teach more tech inclined courses, like how to use Google Maps, because that was also one of the issues these Okada riders will have, especially these educated people who did not typically ride Okada before. They needed to know the routes, because as a good Okada man, you need to know the route. So how to use Google Maps, how to talk to customers better, how to, the whole
just creating the entire experience.
So we wanted to build the perfect Okada man for ride-hailing companies. And it was right on time. So we started training. We rented this big place in Okota. It was like a 30-room building. It was built to be a hotel, but it had not been used for like 4 or 5 years. And we found it. We rented it. We tried to restore it. It was too expensive, so we restored maybe like the bottom floor. We put out posts. I asked all my friends to put it out on their social media timelines and on their WhatsApp headers, and soon it just spread like wildfire. Boom. We got the first order for 150 riders. We're like, okay.
And these are from established Okada companies.
Exactly. And then next thing we knew, what they call them, O-Ride came into the country, and soon we're getting calls, because one of the first things you do when you establish a company like that is, how can we get Okada riders? You try first, and then you fail at it, and like, are there companies that provide
this sort of service, right?
And then they search, and then they find only one, and it was us. So we're called from everywhere.
So you guys began, you started being inundated with.
Oh my God, it was too much. It was too much. At some point, we had like 3,000, 6,000 orders. We want 3,000 Okada riders.
Per week.
Oh, that 3,000 orders came in like a 2-hour conversation. It's like, we're going to sign for 3,000 Okada riders. How soon can you bring them to us? Like, oh my God. We thought we would need to.
How soon I'm curious now.
We thought we would need to kidnap people off the streets to train. And so we said, now we have the orders, we have the demand, and guess what was the problem? Supply.
And it typically is a lot of the time.
Because how is supply the problem when there's so much unemployed people, and we're guaranteeing you minimum of 150? I mean, if you don't work as hard, and if you do work as hard, as much as 180,000 naira a month. How much are you making right now? Zero. As a matter of fact, the people in your house are already tired because you're begging for money from everybody. And now we're saying we're going to teach you how to ride on Okada. You don't even need to have any skills. We are not, you're not paying us to learn how to ride this Okada because we put all of the cost on the client. Zero. You are literally just coming in.
Just turn up.
And we will train you, and then we will send you to these ride-hailing companies. At some point, if turning up was too far because our place was... So the reason why we picked that space in Okota was we wanted to be in the heart of Mushin, in the heart of Lagos, where we thought
you have that popular
pool of unemployed people. And so if you were coming from a further distance anyhow, that's the reason why we rented this 30-room building. We will give you accommodation. Just come and learn how to ride. And sometimes we'll have 100, 150, but there was a huge churn. From the educated people. We got frustrated at some point when our demands were piling and people were on our case, and so we started to recruit the regular Okada riders and train them. And you know how the training goes. Do you understand what you're not supposed to do? Yes, ma. We understand. Okay, great. Now take this bike and go. And then they will go. And then the first week, the company will call you. Oh, wow, so wonderful. And then the second week, they were already reverting back to status quo, because that's what they knew how to. I don't think I'm ever going to do a business that relies on other people for me to be successful. I don't know how to put it. That relies on other people's behaviors for me to be known as successful. Because we did our parts. We trained and retrained and trained, and then we showed them everything they needed to do.
Yeah,
they passed with flying colors because we test them. We even do psychometric testing to ensure that
that's quite extensive. And these for the regular Okada drivers that are out there.
Exactly. And then we deploy them, and we get paid, and we do a little jig every time we get paid. Oh yeah, we make money this week, and then in 2 weeks we have to refund that money, because part of our marketing plan was money back guarantee if the or we would have to replace. So now we're training double for the price of one.
This brings me on to my next question. So in all this process and this journey with from your experience at Max, we're now setting up TORA, and then the government comes in.
Oh my God.
I understand it wasn't perfect. No business really is, but you were having great strides in what you were doing. Business was coming. Demand was constant. Demand was high. The struggles were there, but you were prevailing, right?
Yes.
And then the government, Lagos State, now comes and says, no more Okadas.
You know what's crazy? We knew just before the announcement, but we thought we were not going to be so affected, because at the point where we started to pivot a little bit to logistic companies, like, would you work in the bank? I was like, no, I'm not working in the bank. And then he said, 2 days later, we're talking, I was like, what if I put money in this business? Would you just focus? Would you leave this Okada and then just focus on marketing? Because that's what you're really good at.
Yes.
Because we've been trying to do some of the things that you have done now in so short a while. Some of the ideas that you've come up with, we've been, especially with regards to building a community, you just come up with it so easily. Like, why don't you do this, and then it flows, and then your energy is so high and you work so hard. And then I said, okay, what
You
would
definitely are a marketer, because after this, I'm definitely going to be speaking to you.
And then he calls 10 of his friends in the room. It was a
Yes.
weird conversation. It was an evening conversation. And he was like, I wanted to introduce you guys to. And then I came up, and then he said, she's really good at marketing. And then they all said, okay, let's put some money together.
Yes.
And pretty soon it was, we raised 160 million.
Oh,
I
fantastic.
need to have this kind of friends.
We all need to have those kind of friends. But let's delve into a little bit on the dark side of having all these fantastic ideas in business. When you have such a fantastic business and what looks like is going to have an immensely bright future, something that, you know, let's just say every one of your experiences has led up to that point.
Exactly.
Where you're now like, oh wow, I have that $1 million idea now. I'm now positioned perfectly to leverage off other businesses that have more money than sense. Let's be honest. They have access to funds, ways that many of us don't.
Yeah.
And those people are now your clients.
Yeah, we're selling, what do you call it? We're selling shovels in a gold rush.
Whatever it is, I need some of that. So, you know, your business is now well positioned. The future looks bright. The numbers are magnificent. And Lagos State turns up.
Don't remind me, I'm going to
and
cry.
shows their ugly head and says,
I'm sure they had good reasons for that.
I definitely, I think we're going to go into which side of the coin we stand on what happened with Lagos State. But, you know, as an entrepreneur and somebody who is just riding off this wave and it's about to just reach its climax.
It was about to take off, and then boom. I think that at every point we were figuring out how to deal with these people. What extras do we need to add so that we can, you know, deliver better employable riders? And then this happened.
Lagos turns up, and what did they say to you?
So just before it happened, right, we had found out that our riders who went to logistic companies were doing a lot better than the riders who went to the ride-hailing companies. So we said, you know, let's focus on the logistic businesses. And so we had moved to just deploy.
So you actually transitioned.
Yes, sort of, not completely, but 80% of our demand was coming from logistic businesses. We got the visibility that we needed to other brands, and he put word out so that other people can come and work with us, or other people can come and invest in us. And so that was very, really, really helpful for us. And to be fair, I just met him in January when I got that message that would you come for the pitch?
Yes.
And so I think that just being able to put yourself out there at some point,
it's very key, isn't it?
Even when things looking like,
I think a lot of people post-COVID that were a little bit reserved, I suppose, in their business marketing, that only heavily relied on referrals, and referrals are very, very key, particularly in this market. But who were a little bit reserved in terms of their visibility, have kind of now come out the woodworks, and everybody's now almost alert to the fact that this really is the direction that many of us are sort of trying to move into at the moment.
Yes, that's it. So for me, I was never actually quite quiet about my business. What I had put aside for a little bit was marketing for other brands, because I thought it was time to focus. I think at some point I asked myself last year that, you know, I keep marketing other people's brands, I keep building other people's brands. When am I going to build my own tech business or business?
So the hairdresser that has the worst hairstyle. It's normal. The builder that has the worst house on the street.
So that's why, so that was one of the reasons, I mean, one of the maybe 10, 15 reasons that we started TORA. Not the top of the list, but it was somewhere on that list. And so for me, just being able to say, okay, you're obviously not getting this right. I mean, it's not like you're not trying to get it right. You know, everything is working against you. There's COVID, there's Okada ban, there's government, there's riders who won't behave as they're supposed to behave. And then there's you who probably need to learn a lot more people management skills or a lot more people training skills. Maybe you need to know something more that will help improve this business. but at least you have marketing to go back to. And go back to marketing for now so that you can save the business. I remember having a really awkward conversation with the investor, the one who invested in the TORA business. And I was trying to tell him, we need to shut down. I was like, everything was going on fine just last week or just 2 weeks ago. Why do you need to shut down? And I was trying to explain, we're just as shocked. The rent is due. We can't afford it. We can't afford to. I mean, we can barely afford to pay salaries, but everything is due. Everything, even the bikes need to be improved and changed. Everything that we think that we want to do, we can't afford to do it. So it's either I sit down trying to make this business work, or I go back and work somewhere else. You can't just up and go and work for some other business. But I need to eat.
So what happened to his investment, as in terms of having invested in the company, and then COVID hit, and you made that decision to shut down? What came about the investment?
So pre-COVID, it wasn't a shutdown. Pre-COVID, it was we're just going to do something else and make money and come back and do this. We're just going to wait until, and then COVID came, and like, okay, we're just going to wait until after COVID and get back into this. And then we did try. Yes, we tried to plan for it. I don't know that. So I think maybe it's nostalgia, maybe it's pride, maybe I'm not sure what it is. I don't know that I want to completely let go of TORA, because I think the TORA was a really good idea. But I also know that with the growth of this marketing thing, there's no time to do TORA. So I'm taking each day as it comes. I'm taking each day as it comes.
That's the entrepreneurial story, isn't it? We take each day as it comes. And I think your story is incredibly fascinating. And so often when people tell their stories, it's always, it was challenging at the beginning.
No, we did well.
We did well. Ized, I think very often when we talk about entrepreneurship as a journey, because that's what Susu is all about, just documenting that journey as you're going along. Very so often people always assume entrepreneurship is, I had an idea, I embarked on that idea, it went fantastically well. I might have had a couple of hiccups here and there, but for the most part, it's a...
Oh, yeah. We hear that all the time. And
it's a nice slope to
and
success.
Those are the kind of people they put on panels. So every meetup you go, every tech meetup you go, because you want to meet with people who are in the same industry as you, doing the same thing, and then you hear
the narrative.
So, we started out slow, but started at the bottom. Now we're here. Oh my God, I'm still at the bottom.
We're still at the bottom, and even
as
the
a matter of
bottom,
fact, we found
we were at the bottom. Then we dropped a few levels lower.
And when we thought we couldn't go down any further, we still went a couple of
the
more
ground
meters.
broke. The ground opened up, swallowed us alive, and we still had to crawl our way out of it.
And we're still crawling. And here you are. I mean, I'm not saying that I don't wish for it, or I'm happy for them. I'm happy for them. But those are the kind of stories that we constantly hear. So when you are struggling through your business as an entrepreneur, you start to think about, am I doing everything wrong? I'm trying so hard and it's not working. Is it me? I think that we need to hear a bit more, not necessarily failure stories, but more struggle stories.
Well, we definitely don't want to get stuck in that pity me.
No.
And this is definitely not what myself or you are saying.
No,
I think it's very much of just really being prepared and understanding that
how they made it through this
how they really made it through, and I guess breaking down those stories, breaking down that journey to really identify the moments where, shall I even say, the hundreds of moments where you could have easily given up because it looked helpless, it felt helpless,
and then you kept. It's just like how I said Odun, when he then decided to change her story from what she was saying to talking about how they made it through several things. And then some of the things she said, as she was talking, I took my paper and Byron and I said, that's right, about how she went back to do something and talked to Susu and so friend, and how, they had to do all sorts, within the legal confines of their business to break through. And then they'll call to me, wait, why am I not using my top skill, marketing, to go and do marketing for other brands and bring the money back into this business and sell. So that idea came from that kind of conversation, as opposed to hearing how she went through one accelerator and got whatever $1 million. I wasn't at that stage yet. So
your story, what seemingly looked at the beginning like a journey or a story of a jack of all trades, because in essence you were trying multiple things, and which I really think at that particular age, you were about 17 or so, is really what you're supposed to be doing. I know for me, before I decided to be a furniture manufacturer, I certainly tried many things. Many ideas came along, many failed, many worked, but the passion wasn't really there to drive you through the bad times, so you give up on it. And that's also very much a part of that story that we really need to talk about, that you don't have to have all the answers at the beginning.
No, but you just have to try.
You just have to try a multitude of things. Be comfortable with the failure that you experience in those experiences, in the efforts of trying.
That's going to be hard though.
Is there any part of this journey that's easy?
No.
But be able to accept it at the very least. The money part.
Yeah.
What do you mean the money part?
When the money starts coming in. Not that I've experienced it yet, but when the money starts going, I guess that
you mean
part
like
is
still
the easy
being able
part.
to. Okay, so something you're not necessarily passionate about it, but the money is rolling in. Is that what you're talking about?
No, we're talking about the easy part of entrepreneurship. When the money starts coming in somehow, maybe an exit, maybe somebody buys you over for $2 billion.
Yes.
Or something.
So I guess it's just for anybody sort of listening, it's really capturing that story in its rawest form. And I think for every guest that comes on the show, the stories, they tend to vary. And I think with yours, I think what I'm really picking up more than anything is that there was a lot of
trying.
There was a lot of trying. There was a lot of effort, but you identified a skill that was that came very natural to you, and that skill happened to be the skill that you lean back on in your times of tribulation and confusion and uproar, basically. And it's starting to look as though that skill, that one thing, is the thing you're basically using to drag yourself out of that ground that literally swallowed you up, right? So if anyone is listening and they're listening to your story and they're watching and they're thinking to themselves, I'm a bit like Ized. I'm at the place right now where I don't know what's going on. I don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. COVID has completely either deterred me because I haven't really started anything yet, or COVID has completely turned my business upside down. What would be the one thing that you would say to encourage that sort of person in terms of, just thinking about or entertaining the thought of embarking on their own journey?
I know this comes with like cliche or like some sort of aspire to perspire motivational speech. But I would say it as I feel it, is everything that you need for your success, you already have. Everything you came completely made. And whether you got it from experience on your life's journey, whether you got it from something that you learned in school, or whether you got it from pain or heartbreak, but you are currently at a point where everything you need for the next stage you currently already have. And then you just have to look at it and say, how can I use this? It may look inconsequential, it may look small, it may look useless to you, but it's something that you already have. I know somebody who knows how to cook soups, and that's what she made. She literally didn't have any job, but during COVID she was supplying soups to people who were at home, especially bachelors who were stuck at home, and then they needed. She didn't stop working the entire holiday. It's not a holiday. It's the entire lockdown. And she was so busy, and now she's opening. I hope post-COVID she'll open up a restaurant or do something big with it. But she made so much money just being able to supply food to people. So everything that you need, you already have. It just doesn't look like it yet because We spend too much time too busy looking at, oh, this other person has a tech company. I need to start a tech company. I could have gone and started a marketing company. We'll probably still be doing very well right now. But I want to start a tech company, a tech startup, so that we can get on this accelerator and be on that accelerator, and we can feature somewhere and get investment somewhere, as opposed to just focusing on what I know how to do best, which is marketing. I mean, we still eventually came back there. So I would advise people to just look at what they have, in quotes, look at what they can do, what they've learned from their experiences, and then build on that, because it's never ground zero. It just looks like ground zero, but it's never ground zero. I think everybody has that thing that they can build on.
And I think that perhaps even if that thing looks as though it cannot make you money. I think a lot of people do look at that, don't they?
Yes.
Selling bread
It
cannot make me money. Well, if you sold bread to 18 million people,
exactly,
I want to bet you any money will make you a hell of a lot of money.
Yeah.
Huge amount of money. So everything is about scalability. So no matter how, like you said, no matter how inconsequential it may look, if it's your talent, there's always a way
to build
on it. And
then there's always a way to collaborate and build on it. So leveraging collaborations. I mean, this is international. This is an international podcast, but we're going, and the Agege bread woman. I literally thought they lived in the same house, and then I find out that they actually meet each other on the road. The Awagoing woman is the woman that sells the beans.
Are you being serious?
And then the Agege bread woman sells the bread. But because people typically eat bread and beans together, or people who buy Awagoing will buy bread, or people who buy bread,
I did not
they
know
somewhat
that.
Find themselves on the road. And that is such an amazing collaboration.
And they start walking. Are you being serious?
Agege bread is so good.
Way.
I mean, we were celebrating Best Friends Day yesterday, and I thought that was such an amazing collaboration.
Wow.
So find your I don't know what to call it.
Your talent?
No, not your talent. The person you want to collaborate with. And see how your maybe half-baked and this other person's half-baked together can form one amazing product or one amazing service that you can both become masters of, as opposed to trying to do it on your own and trying to do it in silos. Maybe this is the best time to collaborate now. Find somebody whose maybe marketing skills combined with whatever it is that you're producing, and two of you share profit is the best thing to do now. So you already have what you need, and now you just need to find your partner in crime.
We are exactly where we're supposed to be.
At every point in time.
At every point of the journey.
Exactly. With the right people, with the right set of knowledge, right place, right time.
Even when it feels like hell.
Exactly.
We are exactly where we're supposed to be. And I think if there's any take home from the journey, is that you need to understand there's probably more bad than good for most parts, at least when we're talking day to day.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the good does make up for a lot of that. And I don't really know many business people, many entrepreneurs who have real grit stories that will tell you that they regret any part of it.
I have no regret.
Because at the end of the day, everything contributes to the final outcome.
It does.
And it's the journey, not the destination.
Never the destination. Always the journey. I don't think there's a destination, though. We just keep going.
There is no destination. Where are you going to? The magic is in the journey, like I like to say. The magic is in the journey. Yeah. So as long as you keep creating journeys and creating that story, those magic moments, that moment of, I can survive, I can do it, I have done it, it was worth it, I'm stronger than I think. Yeah?
Yeah.
I didn't know how to do it, but I learned it.
I somehow managed to do it.
And I've done it. And although I'm still going to fail in other areas,
I gave it my best shot.
I gave it my best shot. That is what the journey is all about.
That's what it is.
So Ized, if people want to reach out to you for social media marketing services,
they should.
Social media guru services, how may they reach you?
So they can reach me through my social media handles. It is ZEGBUA on all platforms. Zulu, Echo God, Bravo, Uniform Alpha. ZEGBUA, Zegwa, on all platforms. On Twitter is at Zegwa. On Facebook it's at Zegwa. On Instagram it's at Zegwa. Or they can send me an email, which is my name and my surname, Ized Uanikhehi @gmail.com.
So if you guys do want to reach her, her social handles will be linked to the bottom of this video. Make sure you make a note. We saw you on Susu podcast, so that you just get to the top of that email.
Yes, you will get to the top of the email as soon as you mention Susu podcast. I should probably drop like a referral code. Like,
do you have
Susu.
one?
No, not yet. I was going to make
You can
one
create
for you.
one. We'll make one for you. Susu podcast as your referral code. Put it in your email so that
Subject, yes. So that I know you're coming from Susu podcast.
Fantastic. If you are out there and you are thinking about what that talent may be, ask the people around you. Ask your friends, ask your family, ask your co-workers. Even if you don't necessarily know what that talent is yourself, I want to bet somebody around you, a loved one, a friend, a family member, a co-worker, will have an idea. So don't be scared. Ask them. You might just find that it tallies with what makes you desire, what makes you wake up in the morning, what really brings you or wakes you up, or brings you alive. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this session as much as I have, because I have thoroughly enjoyed myself. So until the next episode, guys, thank you so much for tuning into Susu podcast. I know you could be watching any podcast in the world or listening to any podcast in the world, but you chose to listen to ours. We appreciate you. We thank you. Have a lovely week, and don't forget to be extraordinary in the way that only you can be. Take care, guys. Bye.